This film is about growing fruit trees in small spaces. To many people, an orchard is big trees in a big open field, but you can actually grow fruit trees in any situation. It's just a case of having the right tree for the right space. We're going to show you how to grow fruit trees in a range of forms to suit whatever situation you have. So here we've got apples grown as a step over. This is a variety called sheep's nose. It's this Victorian idea of having very low trees with just two branches that go left and right. They're originally used for a decorative effect around vegetable gardens, but it's a very good way of growing a considerable number of fruit on a very compact little tree. It's called a step over because you literally can just step over them. In the winter, we get a much clearer idea of the form of these trained fruit trees. So this step over has the two main branches going left and right, and then the vertical growth, which has been cut back over the years to form these spurs, which the fruit is borne on. So it really is a fruit tree for a small space. So here we've got some nice pears grown as Cordons and then an Espalier. There's two varieties here, Burr Hardy and Doyen de Commis. But it's that idea that you can train fruit into a sort of fence-like structure. So an Espalier has branches that go left and right horizontally. These are all trained forms, which are some are pruned, so it's a constant case of clipping out the pieces you don't want, retaining the pieces you do, and tying them in. These are grown on a wire. So it is literally an edible fence. Nice crop of pears there this year. Even if you have no open ground at all and have only perhaps got a small garden with a patio, you can happily grow a small tree in half a tub or a large pot. Fruit trees are grafted onto rootstocks, so that determines the size the tree will get to. You can have the same variety on a different rootstock. A small tree will be grafted onto a dwarfing rootstock, which means it won't get very large. Or you can have the same variety grafted onto a standard rootstock, which will grow into a big old-fashioned tree, the sort of thing you could sit in the shade of one day. So depending on the space you want to fill, you need to check that you've got the right tree on the right rootstock. Here we've got an example of the right tree in the right place. This is a semi-dwarfing tree. It's May Queen, an old Worcester variety, and it's in the middle of the vegetable garden. This tree is 16 years old, so it's easy to pick, easy to prune, and with the right pruning regime, it need never be any bigger than this. If we'd put a big, tall, standard tree in here, we'd create all sorts of problems. So this is an example of the right tree in the right place. So do your research and get the right tree from the beginning. At the end of this raised bed, we've got a real example of a small tree for a small space. This is a cooking apple called Golden Noble, and it's just tucked on the end of this raised bed where it's made a very small tree, which is very productive. So again, it's just tied in and clipped in to fill the space. Any chance of it getting too big, we just clip it back. Another feature is apples grown over an arch. So a cheap metal arch from a garden catalogue with a green cooker planted one side and a red eater planted the other side. And as they grow, you tie in the branches you want to keep, clip out the ones you don't, and ultimately we could actually remove the arch and the entire structure would be living apple tree. Another approach to growing trees in small spaces is to use a technique called cordons. So this is where you plant a tree at between a sort of 40 and 60 degree angle, tied to a wire, and it doesn't really develop large branches. All these branches are pruned to create these short stubby branches that the fruit is borne upon. And you can use a line of them to create a division or a partition between different parts of an area or garden. It's a good way of growing a lot of different varieties in a very small space, and you can get 20 or 30 apples off what is actually a very, very small tree. In the winter, we can clearly see the angle on the cordon of the main trunk, and then all this side growth that's been pruned back to form these really nice spurs, bit of a sort of claw-like structure, and then the fruit buds on the end here where the apples will be born. So if every garden did have an apple tree, not only could we all eat our own fresh fruit, but it would be really good for wildlife as well. Just to show what's possible, here we've got one small tree with 7 different varieties growing on it. It was originally this crab apple up here, which is Malus John Downey, and then over the years I've grafted onto it various eating apples. So we've got these limelight, these green ones here, we've got some kids orange red round the front, we've got the Spartans, the purple ones up the back, we've got the russets on the end, and then we've got some Sandlin Duchess here in the middle, and up the back those big red ones are scrumptious. So there are 6 eaters plus the original crab all growing on the same tree. So if you've only got a small garden, room for one tree, you can have more than one variety or multiple varieties on a single tree. So hopefully this video has inspired you that you can grow fruit trees in any space You can even have an entire orchard in the smallest of spaces.